Battle of Verdun lasted 300 days and 300 nights. But for one soldier, it was one continuous, never-ending moment of horror. This is the story of Paul and his childhood terror buried under the shellfire at the mouth of hell, Verdun. It was 1916. The Western Front had become a labyrinth of mud and steel. But nowhere was as horrific as Verdun, France. German General Erich von Falkenhayn wasn't aiming for territorial gain. He wanted to bleed the French army white until they collapsed. Verdun wasn't a battle. It was calculated slaughter. Over 70 million shells were fired at Verdun. Forests disappeared. The earth became a moonscape. Only craters, rock, and metal fragments remained. Our character is Paul Giroux, barely 17, who had lied about his age to enlist. He came from a peaceful village, and he carried a small harmonica with him. He was sent to serve in the French 137th Infantry Battalion, right on the main supply artery, the sacred way Voie Sacrée. When Paul arrived at Verdun in May, everything was chaos. The sacred way was choked with trucks, ambulances, and streams of fresh troops pouring in, facing the hollow-eyed veterans trudging back. Paul was thrust into the trenches near Fort Douaumont. It was a place with no concept of day or night, only the ceaseless noise of the barrage. The sound was so loud it drowned out thought itself. He wrote in his diary, "They told me I would fight for glory, but I see no glory. I see only men huddled in bunkers, weeping silently, begging for a swift death. The smell of hot metal, rotting mud, and dry blood haunts every breath." One night, Paul's unit was ordered to counterattack a communication trench taken by the Germans. The assault was in absolute darkness, punctuated only by the eerie light of flares. They ran across shell craters, slipping on the bodies of their comrades. Paul didn't fire a single shot. His hands were shaking too badly. When he reached the trench, he came face to face with an older German soldier. It was a strange moment of silence in the melee. The German soldier stared at Paul. Perhaps he recognized the youth in Paul's eyes. The German did not shoot. He just shook his head, turned, and ran. Paul survived, but he was isolated, separated from his unit in the chaos. He found a meager shelter beneath a broken log and some metal sheeting. For the next 3 days, he was alone. No water, no food. Just Paul, his harmonica, and the terrible silence between barges. It was then that pure fear gave way to cold acceptance. He learned to distinguish the sounds of the different shells, which one would fall close, and which one would pass overhead. He pulled out his harmonica. Amidst the explosions of 210mm shells, Paul began playing an old tune from his home village. It was an act of madness, but it was the only thing that reminded him he was still human. The faint music caught the attention of a passing French patrol. They found Paul, covered in grime, exhausted, but still blowing into the instrument. They didn't laugh. They understood. In the hell of Verdun, sometimes madness was the only form of survival. Paul was pulled back. He had endured Verdun for 12 days, the maximum time a unit was allowed on the front line before rotation, because any longer, and the men risked losing their sanity. Paul made it. Paul Giroux survived World War I. He carried the invisible scars of Verdun. He was not a decorated hero for his deeds, but a living testament to the sheer resilience of the human spirit. Verdun taught the world that modern war does not care about age or bravery. It is simply a machine designed to crush humanity. The battle itself became the symbol of France's collective sacrifice. This war stole Paul's youth, but it didn't steal his soul's music. If this emotional, personal story resonated with you, please hit like and subscribe to our channel. so we can continue to find and tell other truthful and deeply human historical experiences. But what happened to Paul and the thousands of other exhausted French soldiers after Verdun? Would France have enough strength left to cope with the upcoming British offensive at the Somme? Or did Verdun truly drain them of their lifeblood?